So what can we do in July so we can further those harvests right till the end of the year? Well, a lot of people probably assume that because it's now July, there's nothing really left for you to sow, because you have got your plants already growing and you need to look after those, obviously. But as these plants grow and you take harvests, they're going to slow down, and eventually stop. So you need to sow more seeds to replace certain plants through July and August, even into autumn. And when it comes to things like lettuce, you can just sow them in little pots like this, a couple of holes in bottom, a little bit of compost, taking up no space whatsoever, and you can prick out all these little seedlings to grow on, so that while you're harvesting your salads through summer, you've got a constant supply of plants to replace them. So you can still grow your hearting lettuce like iceberg, and you can also grow different varieties of leaf lettuce, the cut and come again type. But if you're harvesting your lettuce now, like we are, and you haven't replaced those plants, at some point you are going to run out, and we don't want that. And for your salads, it's as simple as a little bit of compost, a quick water, then just broadcast a few seeds. Then a very light covering. Pop a label in this, and in this little space you've probably got upwards of about 100 lettuce seedlings, so you can just pick out the bigger ones to plant on, and you've got a very quick, easy supply of lettuce to last you for a couple more months. And you want to sow things like lettuce once every 3 to 4 weeks, because it's always better to have too many than not enough. Then we've got things like beetroot. You can direct sow this outside now if you want to. Or you could just sow them into modular trays like these. Wait till they're growing on to a biggish size and take everything out as a plug and multi-sow these. About 4 seeds per cell. And then your beetroot's going to grow in a clump of 4, which you can twist out the odd one as they're getting bigger and allow the others to grow on. So that's an option to do. And because we're harvesting those peas at the moment, sow some more peas, because those plants will get tired eventually and they'll stop producing flowers, which means no more peas. It's always best to have another set of plants growing somewhere else in the garden, albeit smaller, as these ones have reached the full height and finished harvesting. You've got these which will be just getting to the point of fully grown, flowering, and you'll start that cycle again, so you can extend your pea harvest. It's not too late to sow peas. So just here we put some more pea seeds in about maybe 3 weeks ago. We basically just dug a bit of a ditch and just sprinkled some in, and now they're well underway and they'll grow up that mesh and then over the top of the fence back down to the side. So as these peas stop flowering, we've got new ones already in place, so we can continue that harvest through autumn. Exactly the same applies to your French beans. Sow some more, because once they're established, they're a fast growing plant, and because we're in July, the weather is going to be consistently warm now, so these will not only germinate faster, but they'll climb those canes twice as quick as they did on your first sowing. So get some of these done. And then we've got this French bean plant, which is right at the top of them canes, all flowering. We've already took about 6 or more harvests of beans from this plant, and it's still sending out more and more. But eventually it will get tired and it'll stop producing any flowers. So we've got these plants which have just started on the way, and these will get right to the tops of these canes and then start flowering, which will replace the ones in the greenhouse when they're finished. But whenever you're sowing pea seeds, I always soak them first overnight, in a bowl of water because it rehydrates that pea and then it's going to germinate quicker, which gives the mice less time to dig them up. If you sow these directly outside, soak them and then cover them until the little plants start coming out, because mice will take the lot if they get the chance. Also, spring onions. I've got lots of spring onions growing outside, but you grow them in clumps of up to 10 seeds. I plant them in modular trays like this, and I'll put about 10 seeds in each one so they grow together as a clump. And we've got a few coming round, and I've got lots in garden, but they're going to get used in salads, etc. So they could run out really quick, and onions take a long time to grow. So as these are starting to grow a bit bigger, we've got these ready to replace them. These are going to take weeks before they're ready to put outside. So if you run out of onions, you'll find yourself down at the supermarket having to buy them. We don't want that. And it's a bit late in year for regular onions because they have such a long growing season. But come autumn, we will be doing a video on Japanese overwintering onions, which I grew the other year. Basically, they're onion sets like the ones you put out in spring, but these can stand all the way through winter. So once you get to the following year, just as you're ready to start putting out your regular onion sets, you'll already have some onions to harvest. So we'll cover that at a later date. As soon as this bed's finished and all these onions have been harvested, we'll be replacing these with some more onion sets and the Japanese overwintering onions. So, sort your spring onions out. Also, we want to keep that supply of fresh spinach coming as well. Although I do find that when it gets too hot, it bolts really quickly. So I would suggest trying planting a bit and put it in a partial shade area. Because if it's in full sun during summer, I guarantee it will flower, bolt, and then be no good. So that's what I'm going to be doing this year. I'm going to put them in containers, not in ground, because then I can move them out at sun if I want as well. And we'll see how that works out, because if I put them in the ground, I haven't got the option to move them. And if we get weather like we're getting next week, apparently it's going up to 84 degrees. That's definitely going to make your spinach bolt. And so you sell some more cabbage plants as well, because you can plant little cabbages out during summer and then harvest them as small cabbages in late autumn, early winter. And of course, these cabbages, when they're done, we'll replace those with some winter cabbage and spring cabbage. So it's always worth having a few cabbage plants. Carrots. If you've got some space for a drill, direct sow your carrots. Never try and grow carrots in containers like this. To start them off, it won't work. They'll just basically start spiraling around in these cells, and then they won't grow straight. So you'll end up with like a bunch of broken fingers for a carrot, which we don't want. So you can't sow carrots into modular trays to grow them on like you can pretty much everything else, including beetroot, which is a root vegetable, same as carrot, but it doesn't have that extended long root. It's more of a bulbing vegetable. So your carrots need to go directly outside, and you want really loose, fine compost, and then just make a long line, which is called a drill, and then just sprinkle thinly carrot seeds in there and give them a light covering. Water, that's done. Try not to let them completely dry out either, because carrot seeds do not like to germinate if they keep getting dried out. So it's not too late to be doing your carrots. If you haven't already done some, get some in and you'll have some ready for harvest around Christmas time. And if you've got any kale seeds and you haven't already got some of this growing, definitely plant some kale, because it's classed as one of those superfoods. It's easy to grow, and kale will stand all the way through winter. And there's loads of different varieties. This is a curly one called Scarlet, but you do get dwarf varieties of kale as well, which you could put in containers. And of course, let's not forget about as Christmas potatoes. Basically what we're going to be doing with those is I'll be planting them in containers, because we're going to let these grow right up until Christmas, and obviously it's going to start and get quite cold. But if we put them in containers, we can keep them in his greenhouse, because when you do Christmas potatoes, you're basically sowing new potatoes, which only grow to about the size of an egg. So they're perfect for growing in containers. And if you saw my previous video, I did a little harvest on a 10-litre pot. And they were second earlies that grow a little bit bigger. And we got a pretty good harvest from one 10-litre pot. So basically, just one of these. One seed potato in a pot that size. Or if you had something this size, you could probably put 3 seed potatoes in there. We're not planting them just yet, because what we need to do is get them and chip them to give them a start for growing. They can be ready for harvest in as little as 12 weeks. But if you can't get hold of any seed potatoes at this time of year to do that, because you either want first earlies or second earlies, and I will try and find some and put links to them in the description. But I think at this time of year, if any is available, they'll be charging a little bit more money for them, which we don't want, because we don't want to be spending more than what we're getting back. So what I do is I tend to go to the supermarket and I'll find a bag of organic new potatoes and chip those. Because if they're organic potatoes, they've not been sprayed, as a lot of companies spray all their potato crops with inhibitors which will stop them chitting. But if they're organic, they've been sprayed basically with nothing. So we can get those, we can chip them, and then we can put them in pots and see if we can get a few nice new potatoes for Christmas dinner. You can still sow some parsnips if you want to. Although if you sow parsnips at this time of year, they're probably not going to be ready for harvest until next year. Unless you take little baby ones. But I've done it a couple of times. I've left them all through winter, and then I've pulled them up and they've been this long. They stood all the way through winter and they've been perfectly fine as well. They weren't woody or anything like that. So you could do that. Or again, you could just put about 4 or 5 seeds in one of these containers. And again, you can do it in your greenhouse. It's got that extra extended warmth as we start to approach winter. So that would be an option to do. And obviously, you can move them around wherever you want to. So basically anything that I'm planting is probably going to be done in containers, because I know that with certain plants, especially potatoes, as they start to get their foliage on top, if we get a frost, it will turn that foliage black. That will then die back and the potato will have to start all over again, sending up new shoots, and we don't want that, especially when we're trying to get an harvest for the end of the year. So for me, growing all these things in containers works a lot better. And if you're a small space gardener, then obviously that's also going to work for you. And the idea of doing what I do is so that I can get as big a harvest as possible, because I freeze a lot of things, which I will be showing on the cooking channel when that time arrives. So I freeze potatoes into roast potatoes and chips. We freeze peas and beans. I blend tomatoes up to freeze as blocks of sauce that I can take out and defrost at any time when I need to cook something. So there's lots and lots of things that you can. We freeze cabbage in batches, and it's a simple process. So if you keep growing and growing, if you happen to get a glut of, say, peas at any point through the year, that's not a bad thing. Just keep picking those pea pods to encourage those flowers to grow more peas. And if you get more than you can eat, just blanch them and drop them in the freezer. And then plant some more plants and keep doing that until you've got lots and lots of homegrown vegetables in your freezer, because that is going to be there for you all through winter. But if you don't keep sowing more seeds and growing more plants, at some point you are going to run out. And there's also lots of other things that you can sow, like all your herbs. Put them in little containers, sprinkle seeds around garden where you can. Get some herbs growing, because some herbs are perennial as well, and they'll just keep growing through winter. So we've covered quite a lot of things that you can start sowing in July. And there'll still be some things that we can sow as well in August, and we'll cover that when that time comes. But for now, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope you gained some information from it, which is going to then serve that purpose of you getting your biggest harvest you've ever had, with the addition of freezing items to keep you in homegrown food all the way through winter. So when it gets to the point that we're indoors more than we're out, and we've got very little that we can be growing, we're going to have a freezer full of homegrown produce. While these food prices keep soaring, we need all the help we can get. So we'll have batches of frozen butternut squash soup that I'll be making on Cooking Channel. Blocks of fresh, homegrown, crushed tomatoes that we can use in all the sauces and curries. Even cabbage that we harvest, blanch and freeze. Not to mention the potatoes, which we'll be cutting into ready-made chips and freezing those as well. So there's so much that you can get from this year's harvest, freeze, which is going to help you all the way through winter. And if that's something that you really want to do, then please just hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and let's all have a great harvest. Thank you very much for watching this video. You all take care.